99.3 Nigeria Info, your number one for news, talk, and sports. And yes, we are back, people.
Yes, we are.
We are back to give you a live coverage of the ministerial screening. It's day 2, and the House is set. The Senate is ready. They're seated already. The floor is open. The Senate President is also regally seated in white agbada. And the first nominee is standing out there in Abuja. Correspondent Fidel Osagal is also in Abuja. We'll be speaking with him later on. I'm Wemimo.
And I'm Sheriff Quadri. Many thanks to everyone that joined us on the live coverage yesterday from around 11 at about this time till 4 p.m. Many thanks to you. You can also join us as we have commenced the coverage of the ministerial nominees live from the floor of the Senate in Abuja today. And feel free to join our conversation and the coverage on Facebook at Nigeria Info FM. At Nigeria Info FM. Achike Chude is also in the studio. Achike, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning.
It's good to have you, yeah?
We also have Tunji Andrews joining us. Tunji, good morning again.
Good morning.
Are you set for another round today?
Actually, no.
Well, ready or not, here you go. Nigeria, we're live on Facebook and also on YouTube, Nigeria Info FM or Nigeria Info Lagos. You can watch us right there and also let us know what you think. The first nominee for the day is out there on the podium, listening. I think it's just making some introductions. First of all, who is this? Who's this person?
We have no idea. We'll get to listening later so we can know who exactly is on the screen. Yeah, anytime now.
Yeah, well, let's head over there. Let's hear his opening remarks, I believe, or if he's answered some questions already. Let's listen to this. We'll be right back.
Arakunrin Oluwarotimi Akeredolu, who solidarized with me by coming to the floor of the Senate with me, and my brothers who are also in the House of Representatives from Ondo State. I have copiously in my CV stated my biodata. It's a very small document, and I deliberately made it so that it will be easy for my colleagues to go through. I'm sure by the time you flip through in 5-10 minutes, you will have seen who I am. I only want to use this opportunity to plead with my colleagues that there were some jobs that we started in the 8th Senate, which were almost completed. That is very dear and close to my heart, especially in the petroleum industry. We had the PIB, which had been on for almost 20 years. And in the 8th Senate, we tried to split the PIB into 4. The Petroleum Industry Governance Bill, the Administration Bill, the Host Community and Impacted Bill, and the 4th one, which is very, very important, which is the one that will dictate how much money we are going to get in this country. We call it the Governance Bill. Please, I will plead with Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues that this bill, especially the PIG bill, had been passed, but it has not been assented to by Mr. President. Please revisit this bill for the good of Nigeria. It is very, very important for Nigeria to move forward and earn more from the natural resource of crude oil that God had given to us. There is also another bill that we had done to second reading. We had even conducted public hearing on it. The Nigerian Nuclear Regulatory Agency bill. Everybody knows that the world has moved from crude to clean energy and other things. This one is very important for our nation, and the bill should also be completed. Having said all those, Mr. President and Chairman, I wish to thank you once again for giving me the opportunity to stand before you and let you know that everything about me is before you, and I will be ready to answer questions if need be. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Distinguished colleagues, we recall that we also agreed on the standard procedure when we have our former colleagues nominated under screen here. The two leaders of the Senate will normally talk on our behalf. So I'll start with Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting as the chair. My name is Inaya Baribe. I represent Abia South, and by the grace of God, Minority Leader. Tayo Alasodura is a good man, our good friend. Thank God that after having told us the work that you have done on the governance bill, part of the PIB that the 8th Senate worked very hard on, that it was not assented to. Not our fault, we did our job. Now you're on the other side. So we will expect you to make sure that you convince your colleagues in the executive that we didn't mean any harm in making sure that the petroleum sector of Nigeria that gives us all the revenues that we sit on today, that this reform is taken very seriously by the executive. Being there, we are sure that you are going to be a good ambassador of this chamber, and we will look forward to working very closely with you. We don't know whether they are going to put you in that sector, but whichever sector or whichever place that they put you, don't be like the ministers who are very good to come and call all of us now, and would not take calls even from Senate leaders when they become minister. We know you are not that way because we have interacted with you here, and you are a part and parcel of us. And so we do not have any hesitation in going ahead to say, represent us very well when you get there. Thank you.
Senate Leader.
Well, that's a speech from the Minority Leader, Abaribe. And he's saying, oh, you've been one of us. You're just going to, continue to rep us as you move on. This is just another...
It's just praise singing, basically.
Yeah.
And you want to look at the enormity and seriousness of what we are doing, especially our lawmakers, what they are doing. Because it seems they don't know. They don't know the weight of somebody being screened as a minister.
Well, again, this comes to the House rules. If you've been a lawmaker, he was a senator, the chairman, in fact, of the Senate Committee on the upstream something. So he's been with them, in the House for a long time. In fact, he recontested to come back to the Senate, lost the bid. So, he's just one of them, and they're just giving speeches. And after this second speech, I'm sure it's just going to take a bow and leave. But let's hear what the Majority Leader is saying.
That's right.
Opinions of most issues that come before this Senate, and I find his counsel and his temperament on a lot of issues is gentlemanly and always reassuring. I know he has passion for the petroleum industry and the reforms in that sector, and he really led the position that brought this very intractable reform process into 4 separate bills so that we can be able to address, the petroleum industry reforms in a much more...
All right, poor audio there, but Alasho Adura was the chairman, Senate Committee on Petroleum Upstream. Tayo Alasho Adura there, he again contested to come back to the Senate, lost the bid, and here we are. He's been nominated as a minister, and his colleagues, singing his praises. This is just the go along thing. So he's going to take a bow shortly and leave. He represented Ondo Central Senatorial District. He was born in 1949 in Iju, Akure North, and like he said, the governor is right there with him to solidarize with him. Achike.
That's
Well, what you see is a manifestation of the relationship, within the class. It's a class of people, we must know, and this class spreads across geopolitical zones. It's beyond religion, it's beyond ethnicity. It's a class of people that are united by certain creeds. And we have seen an exhibition of these creeds, really. What we have seen is, the camaraderie that is going on. Obviously, it's infectious in the red chambers.
So why not just tell him to just take a bow and go instead of wasting, value time?
Well, there's a ritual that has to be completed, and that is and obviously that is what they are doing. But again, you get worried because we talk about the affinity that they have for one another, within the red chambers, and that is what makes them accord the kind of respect. I mean, you see a man that is supposed to be grilled, and they are
paying homage,
effusive praise on him. The reality is that in as much as you have some duties and obligations based on your relationship with people, your friendship you have garnered over the years in the National Assembly, but the primary duty is to the Nigerian state and to the Nigerian people.
That's
we
right.
must not forget that.
Let's talk about his duty to the
that
people.
they have. Yeah.
Yes, Tunji, he was chairman of the the Committee for Petroleum Upstream, and he has just given a speech about the PIGB that's been, ongoing for almost 2 decades, about 2 decades now. And he has asked that the Senate would work hard to ensure that the PIGB is passed.
He worked on it for how long?
Well,
the thing about the PIGB is it's not rocket science.
no, it's not.
It's even because the PIGB is a smaller subsect of the previous petroleum industry bill.
PIB.
The petroleum industry bill is altogether about 200 plus pages, and if this is a subset of it, it should be less. And
It was broken into 4.
yeah, I have gone through the 200-page PIB initially, so it's not rocket science. He's not done anything intelligent. He's not done anything particularly
Extraordinary.
smart. Yeah, so this is him. He's trying to look for accolades where none exist. He didn't start it. It's been existing since Obasanjo's tenure.
Yeah.
That's
They've
right.
just been revisiting and revising the particular document. So he's done nothing to wave him and say pass and go or bow and go. I think we seriously need to question our lawmakers, because these people represent each and every one of us. You all 4 of us sitting on this panel right now have somebody representing us there.
Yeah.
That's right.
This is a question we need to ask those people, that is this what we sent you there to do? To pass, because there's nothing to show us that this man is worthy of being a minister. Even though we don't even know what minister is, that even scares you the more, because first of all, there's nothing to show he's competent to be there. Then second, you don't even know what he's going to be, so it's even scary. Tomorrow he could be budget and planning for.
Here we are.
Yeah,
Here
could
we
be.
are. The people that are supposed to make us, rest assured that he's capable. They are not doing that.
That's
They're
what we're saying.
singing.
That's what I'm saying. We Nigerians, it's like we don't get that those people represent us. As collectively, we should be calling these people and asking questions. We did not send you there to go and pass people and go.
Well, let me tell you some of the things that Olutayo Alasho Abdurrah said, some of the issues that inhibited their passage of the PIB. Wait for it. He said this,
Let me
he said this some years ago. He exposed the hurdles surmounted to pass the PIB in the National Assembly. He said the hurdles did not allow it to pass through the 6th and the 7th Assembly, despite the transparency and accountability it offers in the management of the nation's petroleum resources. The bill was first introduced in 2008 and drives to split the NNPC into Nigerian Petroleum Assets Management and National Oil Company. So he says, according, the politics behind it is more than what you have to do to get the bill passed. In fact, he says there was a day he was abused by a set of people who came to lobby him for the bill not to be passed. He says, unless you can withstand pressure, you won't be able to do what I did. And by the time we were able to take the bill to the floor of the House for passage, we booked 3 days because we thought it would be stormy. The South wants everything. The North does not want it. So when it comes to the floor of the Senate, it would die because the northern senators are more than the southern senators. It says in the National Assembly, the politics is different from that of your state. National Assembly is about lobby. It is about getting people to support you. If they don't support you, even if you bring the best bill to the floor of the Senate, it will die. It said they offered me money to say no. But the little money I have that God has provided for me is enough for my well-being and that of my family. So
again, we're saying that it's not really entirely left to him to get to perform exceptionally, especially when you talk about the PIGB that we've been talking about. You're saying,
what are we
you
saying?
need to
What are we
lobby.
saying? Guys, okay, let's slow down and understand something. Laws. I'm not entirely sure it's illegal in Nigeria to lobby. I don't know if it is.
No, it's not. It's not illegal.
I don't know if it's legal.
Lobbying is allowed.
But this is the most lucrative part of Nigeria's economy. So you expect high-level lobbying. That he was sitting on that panel was a very lucrative position. Let's not try to mince words. Why didn't he name the people that came to say he should say no?
Of course, you know that nobody would have done that. Nobody would have done. You can't name anybody because
you just decided not to.
It will now be. If
you are bold enough,
prove your case,
Sheriff. If you are bold enough to say the people that came to you, if you are bold enough to tell them no, because let's be real, if they came, they would have come bearing gifts.
And here goes your bow, Tunji.
He's taking the bow.
Tunji seems to be measuring bows. That's the third one. A deep bow and handshakes.
Last one.
Wow, they're giggling.
This is such a show of shame.
This is so embarrassing. Giggling, high fives.
He's getting some ovation as well.
Shakes in the air. I mean,
such a show of shame.
You tend to sober up when you see this kind of thing play out, because you know that the lives of 180 to 200 million people
are in their
hands. Are in their hands. And then when you have a country that finds itself where it is just now, I mean, the kind of crisis we have, social crisis, political crisis, economic crisis, and being exacerbated every single day. And then you have, for instance, a president who was elected some 2 months back, and people were already beginning to shout that that ministers needed to be appointed, and then eventually ministers are appointed. And then when you look at the list of people who have been nominated, and then you get so disappointed because you see the same kind of people who have been in charge of this country for some time, united by a common creed, you understand, and temperament, politicians most especially. And you now realize that it's about payback for jobs that have been done, for a continuity of governance. And you get worried. And then you're also hoping, it doesn't end there with nomination.
Yeah.
It's going to get to the National Assembly. And
then
you're worried
yeah,
because you have an idea of what has happened in the past at the National Assembly.
That's right.
And this should be our filter.
Exactly. This should be the filter. This should be where you grill these people. Well, beyond that, you're also worried that, look, for each of these people that are appearing at the National Assembly, that they are not going to be asking them specific questions because you don't know where they are going to go to.
There are no
Just like
portfolios.
saying, there are no portfolios. And then you're now getting there, and even for them to do the
bare minimum.
Thank you. The barest minimum, that also is not done.
But can we really blame these senators? I mean, if there was no portfolio, how could they plan the questions they would be asking? Because you remember the questions we heard yesterday. We were here wondering what sort of questions those were.
Let me say this. Look, we have had, a very acrimonious assemblies, National Assembly, from 1999 to date. And it did not matter even if the ruling party of the day, had 2/3 majority. They all had their squabbles. They all had their, their own problems, within the Executive and National Assembly. So at least this time around, you could say to a very large extent that for the very first time in a very long while, that the Executive was able to get the kind of National Assembly it wanted. There was a lot of, back and forth, but eventually a leadership emerged at National Assembly. Now, some people would be worried about that under normal circumstances, because you need some kind of, competition between both sides, healthy competition.
That's right.
But remember what was said to Alasho Adura, I mean, by the minority leader, Barry B.
Yeah.
He says, you've been one of us, and we expect that you will not give us problems. I mean, he insinuated that there will be this camaraderie going on, between...
And when we call you, you don't expect you to put off your phone.
Your phone.
So,
I mean...
So this what we're saying. So,
they're not even hiding it
They're
anymore.
not hiding it. I mean, it's
so
just...
we want a National Assembly that cooperates with the Executive, because after all, it is for the good of this country. But we do not want a pliable and compliant National Assembly. And so it would appear to me that this could be a consequence of that working relationship that exists between the Executive and the National Assembly, because you would expect that, look, a serious National Assembly will get back to the Executive and say, no, we don't know, for us to do a good job, we need to know that we can put
the role this person will be playing.
So we need
one of our listeners
we need to have
one of our listeners yesterday mentioned, I think it was a fantastic suggestion, that even if the presidency does not have a particular portfolio, you can say for Mr. A, we're suggesting 3 ministries, so screen them, and then
that's more work.
Yeah, that's more work. But then you can then tell us which you think they're more suitable
realize that
for.
everybody's trying to do the best minimum right now.
Right.
That's what you're asking for, is more work. It would be easier to just say their portfolios than to say we're nominating them before.
Because that would be a screening.
Had already made their flight arrangements for the holidays. Don't forget that they are also anxious to go on their
2 months holiday. When did they resume again? Didn't this
and they work just Tuesdays and Thursdays. They sit just Tuesdays and Thursdays. But I'm also aware that they work behind the cameras more because of oversight functions and all of that. Yes, they do. They do actually.
Oh, they do.
They do. But here is Achike. Let's come to. We'll get to that. Let's come to the names of women, the number of women on this list. In today's Africa, some governments in Africa are giving women more opportunities, to be represented. They are in for gender equality and gender parity in governance, and we're not seeing that. That is not reflecting in this list that we have.
We have just 7 women
of them.
nominated.
Well, I'm aware that a statement was made in faraway Germany some time ago, and this, what you're just referring to, could be a reflection of the philosophy behind that statement that was made.
Yeah, their role is in the other room.
About the other room,
made by the president himself.
Because the reality is that we had a better participation in the last dispensation, not this. Not under I think it was under the Jonathan administration. We had much more women participating in governance. We had
let me hold you, please.
Involved in the election.
Achike, we need to go back now. Okay. Mustafa Babashewuri is being screened. He's from Borno State. He served as a councillor representing Lamasula Jabamari ward of Maiduguri Metropolitan under the old non-party electoral system from 1996 to 1997. Between 1999 and 2003, he was a member of the State House of Assembly representing Maiduguri Metropolitan State Constituency on the platform of the defunct APP. Was a member of the House of Reps from 2007 to 2011. He was sworn in on the 11th of November 2015 as a minister representing Borno State in the Federal Executive Council, and was assigned as State Minister of Power, Works and Housing. So let's listen to him. He's probably also going to take a bow shortly, but he's making his remarks now.
from 2007 to 2011.
Order.
Mr. President, sir, distinguished senators, having made my modest and humble contribution to development of my state, I aspire and got elected again in 2007 as Member House of Representatives of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, representing Maiduguri Federal Constituency, an election that enabled me to serve my country at the national level, there at the House of Representatives. In addition to the basic responsibility of making laws, I have equally participated in other functions and responsibilities assigned to me. These, my distinguished senators, gave me an opportunity to serve not only my immediate constituency, but the country as a whole. I was also appointed Honorable Minister of State, Power Works and Housing between 2015 to 2019. Your Excellency, distinguished senators, throughout my political life, I have, to the best of my ability, served and represent the ordinary Nigerians in the course of discharging my duties in the various offices I found myself, particularly in the National Assembly and later as a Minister of State, Power Works and Housing. I have traveled around the country to inspect and supervise projects, including the construction of roads, housing, bridges, and power projects all across the length and breadth of this country. Equipped with the wealth of experience gathered at the various levels of our democratic setting, at local, state, and federal level, spanning over 2 decades of experience, I believe I'm well equipped to render my invaluable contribution in the onerous task of nation building if given the opportunity to serve. I make this assertion believing faithfully and counting confidently on this hallowed chamber that you will find my nomination quite worthy of your kind approval to serve our fatherland. Finally, I wish to end this short presentation by earnestly thanking you. I'm also deeply grateful to all of you for the great honor of hearing me speak, and I'm pleased for your time and attention. Thank you once again, sir.
Very distinguished colleagues, the nominee served as a member of the House of Representatives between 2007 and 2011, as we can see in a CV. And of course, it is our tradition here that those nominees who were once members of the National Assembly enjoy a certain privilege and concession. And that is, this is a place they served their fatherland from. So we normally extend the privilege, but we also request our leaders to speak on our behalf. And I will start with Minority Leader. Speak on behalf of this. Minority Leader, speak on behalf of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting as the chair. Baba Shehuri, I have interacted with him as Minister of State in the Power Works and Housing Ministry. And let me tell my colleagues that during that period, we heard of fights in the transport ministry between ministers and ministers of state. We heard of fights in the agriculture ministry between ministers and ministers of state. We never heard. We also heard in the petroleum industry, but we never heard in the Minister of I'm going somewhere. I'm going somewhere, sir. Very, very, very soon.
Distinguished colleagues, there was never a fight in the Ministry of Petroleum Resources because the President was the Minister of Petroleum Resources and he never fought with the Minister of State. So you are wrong on that count.
And so, I take your intervention under advisement and is very well guided. But what I want to say and what I want to point out is that this may be a good opportunity for us to let the executive arm know that ministers of state must be given very clear schedules of duty. Should be given so that we will not have any such, because if he had used his bulk and weight, it would have been a different thing. And so he exhibited a lot of decorum which he got from the House of Rep in the National Assembly. And he took everything in good faith. And so the Senate would wish to ask him that this time let them not make you Minister of State so that you will now be a senior minister. You must graduate. But even then, we want to reiterate that it is necessary for the executive to know that it is very, very good for each person to know exactly where he's, so that people don't get it from. And so we thank you and we say we wish you well when you go to the executive again. Thank you.
Mr. President or Chairman, I want to come under personal explanation. 43. Do I read or go ahead? By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make a personal explanation, although there be no question before the Senate. But no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor any debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate and when the I have not made the thing, but I think my 43 arose out of the last submission, and I felt I'm duty bound to make a personal explanation if I'm privileged by the chairman to do so by this order.
Even though he didn't submit to me the terms, and I want to imagine that it's not a controversial thing, I will allow you to, you can go ahead.
He has been bending the rules, so don't bend this one.
That's very serious.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to see this opportunity to inform the minority leader that there has always been clear-cut schedule of duties for ministers of state. Yeah. I was once a minister of state of power like him, and I think, and I've been interacting with various ministers of state up to this stage. So this government, President Buhari's government, has clear-cut duties for ministers and ministers of state. Yes. So it's not that you tell us what to do. Yes. Thank you. Well guided.
Distinguished Senator Danju Mogoja, your point of order is well sustained. Senate leader.
Order.
And there you have it, the ongoing screening of Mustafa Shehuri from Borno State. You've been listening to live coverage of the ministerial nominees, by the Senate. Achike, you heard what the senators have been saying regarding the clear definition of roles of junior and senior ministers. And eventually, this would have to be spelled out because even it happened in the transportation sector, where we had, the senior minister, Rotimi Amechi, having some form of clash with the junior minister, in that sector as well. Should this even be to start with?
Well, Nigerians like positions, and they have shown it over time. And the fact that they have the tag minister, whether a minister of state or minister, they are all ministers. And so perhaps I think some of them tried to overreach their positions. And of course, that brought about some friction. Obviously, I would agree when Ayinaya Baribe says that the Minister of State should have clearly demarcated their roles to play to avoid all of these frictions. But if he is interested in that, and that's what I also find a little bit contradictory, if it's good for him to realize that the Minister of State or ministers have to have clearly defined roles to play, I'm surprised that he's not asking why the portfolios of these nominees were not provided for in the first place, because it follows. One follows from the other.
That's right.
You understand? We need to know you guys that are coming here before us. We need to know what you are all about. We need to know your qualifications that you have for this job. And so I think the impression I'm beginning to have is that he likes to hear his own voice. But it is not just the sound of his voice alone that matters, but the content of what he says. Obviously, they are all having a lot of fun, cracking jokes. And it is good to have that among people who belong to different political parties. It augurs well for reduction of the friction we have in the country today. But the reality in the upper house is not what we see on the streets of this country.
That's right.
Nigerians are exceedingly very stressed. Nigerians want to get the best from their leadership. And so when Nigerians, serious-minded Nigerians, see what is going on there, I don't think they are really overtly
the
impressed.
funny thing, City of Lagos, you can't see inside the studios, but we have a lot of screens around.
That's right.
And right on the screen, you can see the Nigerian Parliament on one side, and you can see the British Parliament on another screen.
That's right.
Now you can see the difference in demeanor. I'm not saying the demeanor because they know they are here for business. You can see, and this is even a parliament that we're saying that okay they have issues, but look at the difference. It's even we in the studio seem to be more serious than they are. Over there. There's laughing, there's cheering, there's high-fiving, there's I saw Senator Dine Malaya going up and down, going to whisper in people's ears. He was basically it makes you wonder if we are serious as a people, because at the end of the day, Nigeria is at I'll call it a precipice. The Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement is in front of us.
That's right.
Where at this particular point, we either compete or die.
We should be worried. We should be troubled. We should be more serious.
Exactly. This is a case of, guys, what is ahead of us.
Nothing should be on our table apart from how we want to
How
maximize.
are we going to compete? Yeah. Because I keep saying it, the last advantage Nigeria had in terms of population will be eroded by the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Because by the time you open the doors to everybody has access to your market.
That's right. Mustafa Shehuri is taking his bow. He's having handshakes and being followed by his entourage. So they actually do come with entourage. Okay. Yeah. I can see that.
Oh, okay. You didn't. You've not probably seen pictures of Facebook. So if you have friends who are lobbying around these people, you would have seen them also outside taking pictures. There were after parties and things like that. So yeah,
it's a big ceremony.
It's a huge
one.
Yeah.
Oh well. Good luck to them. We await the screening of the next nominee as we continue with our coverage on the show this morning.
If there was another word we could use to replace screening,
We should. You're saying this is not a screening.
It's not a screening. Let's just say it as it is.
It is what they call.
It gives the impression of they are going through the theatrics but believe me, this is not a screening. Because if you want to travel today, you have to go through the screening machine that they have at the airport. They're going to look at everything you have in your box, and they're going to ask you what is inside this place.
Yeah.
So that's what you call screening. That's what we expect them to do. Look at the educational backgrounds. Look at their quality. Look at the jobs they have held in the past.
Their records,
and what they have been able to achieve.
Allegations.
Look for allegations, controversies surrounding these people, and see whether they are worthy of the office that they are ascribing to. These are the things you do. That is what you call the screening.
Awesome, interesting. The troubling part that I think that we're not really focusing on is what Inaya Baribe said, the Senate Minority Leader, and he said that you were a junior minister in the past. This time it's time for you to be promoted. It's more or less looking like a reward system. We have seen, and they are saying it on national television, on global television.
Sheriff,
it's time for you to be promoted.
What
does that even mean?
It's because
what does that mean?
It's because we as the Nigerian people do not. There's no backlash for what they're doing right now. There will not be any backlash for what they're doing right now. So when the line keeps being pushed every day, what should have been something of outrage, and people don't complain, you take another step forward. Then you take another step forward until you just realize that God. I mean, we did see the head of one of the political parties talking about the fact that if you come to our side, your all sins will be forgiven. I mean, this was said, and they know it to be on record. They know it's out there in public.
And it was said in public. It was said on public, TV, as a matter of fact. And it was said by the national chairman.
If that happens and no outrage was done, then, hey, it's time for you to be promoted.
I think it was...
so this is even minor.
It's a minor issue.
I think it was good that Tunji, tried to contrast what is going on at the National Assembly and what is happening at the British Parliament. Not just the gaiety that we have in one and then the soberness, in the other one. But the reality is that our people do not seem to understand the temperament of the moment, and that is because you see they should reflect leadership, leadership should reflect the mood of the nation.
Is it about understanding in this case or taking for granted?
No, if they understood,
the confidence if you really understand, people have reposed
Sheriff,
in
if your
them.
house is on fire,
because I wouldn't say they don't understand what they're doing.
So there are two things. There's fire. There can be fire in your house without your house being on fire, right? So if you put on the gas cooker, there's fire. It's in your house. It's hot. It's fire.
That's right.
But your house is not on fire. They are acting as if there's a gas cooker going on, while parts of the house are burning up. Power, education, infrastructure, healthcare. What is working? One single thing. Security. One thing that is working. Name one. One for me as any. Just try. Aviation. Which one is working? And we're here high-fiving ourselves like we're here for a festival.
Yeah, and I think that stems from the fact that I think Boris Johnson was just saying that over there that the people are the masters. They determine ultimately what they do. And that is why at the end of the day, if they don't behave themselves, look at what is going on in Puerto Rico. The governor of Puerto Rico.
I was even going to share that too.
That's right.
The people have insisted
that he must resign, and he must resign
whether he likes it
he
or
has
not.
Resigned.
The man insisted he wasn't going to go. When he saw the full fury of the people, that the people had made up their mind that this man
must
has not
resign.
treated us well. He has not treated us
well. Yes.
He no longer has any business in government, and they made sure he went. And so the situation we're talking about, or we are making reference to, is the impunity that we see in the land. The fact that people can do and say whatever they want.
How about the understanding of the people themselves? I mean, if your representatives are doing all of these things in your presence, and it's almost like Nigerians have resigned to fate.
Yeah, it is the 1 million naira question. It is the dilemma that we find ourselves in. The reality is that for a very long time, we didn't even know that we have been taken for a ride in this country.
We did
now,
not,
it has dawned on us that those who represent us are not necessarily our friends because they have treated us badly. They have kept the people hungry so that whenever they want to get back to power, they go to the people and give them pittances. And so you now find a people who have been oppressed and suppressed that are now grateful to their oppressors.
Apparently.
And that is a tragedy, and that is the painful part of it. And then
they hail the oppressors when the oppressors have come back to oppress them.
This is the issue. This is the issue. That's the tragedy.
It is sad.
It is sad.
It is very, very sad. Let's move on now to live coverage. The next nominees on Abubakar Aliyu from Yobe State. Let's take a listen to. He's giving his opening remarks now.
I started my school in my early days at 7 years old. During that time, you have to reach 7 years before you start school. So after finishing my early studies, I went in to professionalize in civil engineering, which I bagged a degree in civil and water resources engineering. I started work with Borno State government in the year 1988 as a technical officer. I was then posted immediately to assist in building road between Pulka to Kirawa border in Borno State. After then, I went back to study further. I obtained national diploma, then in civil engineering. Then I went back to obtain higher national diploma in civil engineering, highway and transportation engineering. I felt I need to professionalize more. I went back to the university and enrolled in Part 2 in University of Maiduguri. In civil and water resources engineering. After then, I returned back to the service, and by that time, Borno and Yobe were separated. So I came back to my state, where I belong, Yobe State, and get involved. I started as a principal engineer in Ministry of Integrated Rural Development, and subsequently I was posted from here to other places, and I became the Managing Director of Housing and Property Development Corporation. From there, I was posted to Ministry of Housing to serve as the Acting Permanent Secretary. From the Acting Permanent Secretary, my brother was the governor, together with your distinguished colleague, Alhaji Dr. Ibrahim Gaidam, in 2007, and you all know what happened to him. May his soul rest in peace. When he died in 2009, immediately Alhaji Dr. Ibrahim Gaidam invited me to come and serve with him as a deputy governor, of which I accepted. And we were there for 2 years before we went to the polls. And we got elected in 2011. We served our first time between 2011 to 2015. The second term, we went back again to the poll and got elected to serve the second term. And because of the reason that you all know, we served the state consecutive 10 years. So here am I now before you. In fact, I was even nominated to come to the Senate. I went for the screening, I finished everything, but for some reason, specifically to allow the campaign in our state to go without rancor, because we were faced with so many challenges coming from the frontline state, and if we add it up with some political disagreement, it will mess up the place. So after I resigned, and my boss, Dr. Ibrahim Gaidam, asked me, of which I have to say yes. I have never disobeyed him throughout our 10 years with him. He asked me to allow my elder brother, who is with you here, Senator Ibrahim Mohamed Bomoy, to take up that position. I let it for him. So they asked me to go for the reps, but already some people were doing their things at the reps level. So I thought, why should I go and disrupt that place? So I said, no. It is not that I look down upon the reps, no. I just wanted to allow them to do their things. It's just about service. Anything that comes along, leadership is service to the people. Anything that comes, let them bring it, I will do it. So in the meantime, I will allow myself free and help everybody, help the party and help the state to take to the next level. And that's what I did. So I was just called upon 3 days ago that I have been nominated to the to serve as the Minister of the Federal Republic. So here I am with you today. I'm happy, I'm glad to be here. This is the first time I've entered this beautiful Halo Chambers with these prominent personalities. Thank you very much.
Senator Kabirga. Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. I'm Kabirga from Kano State, represent the people of Kano South. Mr. President, I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on this nominee, and that this nominee happens to be from Yobe State and a very good friend of His Excellency, the Senate President. So I should say, and he has been a loyal deputy governor for 10 years. I've known him for many years. As a person that was given opportunity to take another slot in politics for this House of Rep, but he refused. He's been nice and humble. So, Mr. President, in view of this, he's also a fellow member of Nigerian Institute of Engineers,
Nigerian Society of Engineers,
Nigerian Society of Engineers, and also a quorum member. So I believe he's qualified to appeal to my colleagues. He has also talked about his governor who has been very loyal to him. I will appeal to my colleagues
This is a gentleman to the core. I shall at least ask them or appeal to you that let him bow and go. Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Johnson.
Well, gentlemen, the Senate has just, a member of the Senate has just requested that Abubakar Ali should be allowed to take a bow and go. And we're back to that again, this time around. Still take a bow and go. Interesting, right? Interesting times.
I really, he's going to. It almost feels like we're here to just see people bow. This is a bowing exercise. That's what you should call it.
You know what?
It's no longer screening, bowing exercise.
We need to take a break right now to bring you some of the stories that we are following. That's right. And when we return, the coverage will continue. Stay here on Nigeria Info.
Talk, news, and sports after this.
What's about it again? Let's see whether there will be a change in what is going on, but it doesn't seem likely. It's the same scenario that is playing out, and well, we are watching.
Tunji, what do we need to, apart from just taking a bow and go? I mean, there is nothing we can do about that right now because it's a tradition of the house. What do we need to watch out for exactly to just make sure that we keep an eye? Because we can't say that because they're taking a bow and go, we will not keep an eye on their activities. What should we be looking out for?
Well, you see, I mean, it's from the head downwards. At this particular point, okay, so we're drawing parallels with the UK Parliament, and we see a scenario where even Boris Johnson, that was made Prime Minister yesterday, is a situation whereby it is clear we know what he's doing. It is clear we know his objectives. It's clear we know his direction.
That's right.
So whoever is his cabinet members, it's in the direction of where Boris Johnson is going, and we all can tell what Boris Johnson's direction is. Brexit, how to leave Europe with a good plan and with a good agenda. It's not completely clear what President Muhammadu Buhari's direction for this next 4 years
policy direction.
Yeah, to start with. So these guys, we're not even sure they know what they are going there to do. Forget whether they are ministers of this or ministers of that. When they're even named as ministers, I'm not even sure they know what agenda they are meant to pursue. You know, because job description is not very clear.
Okay.
It's so it's difficult for us to even. Where do we start from? Is it holding the president accountable? Is it holding these people who are? Oh, I just saw, one former governor, speaking. The whole thing just looks like a circus.
And by the way, Bashir Saleh is a retired major general.
Okay.
And he was appointed governor of Sokoto State in Nigeria from August 1990 to January 1992 during the military regime of General Ibrahim Babangida. And that brings us, Tunji, to the point of the part where we get to talk about recycling of old politicians.
It's a problem. I said it here yesterday that I'm not ageist. I'm not totally for saying young people must be there, because it's not really about age, it's about competence.
That's right.
At the end of the day, if we have an old competent person, it's the old competent person that should be there. So I really am not about age. I just want competence. There are people who have been in past administrations that were clearly fit and competent. If they come back again, we can see that their competence will shine forth. Okay. One such person is somebody who has moved on to the Africa Development Bank right now. His work shone for him. He's moved on to greater, bigger things. Another one such person is Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala.
That's right.
You might have all the grievances against her. She's moved on. She's on the board of Twitter. She's moved on. She wouldn't have gotten to that position if she wasn't. It wasn't clear.
Delivered in the past.
If it wasn't clear that she was delivered. And this is a global organization. This is not Nigerian. So they've moved on. So this is competence. We need people like that in various. So if those were the caliber of people we had here now, honestly, we would have a far more robust debate in this particular this particular studio right now. We'll be debating policies. The last time she came, this was what she did. Are we thinking that this is what we're going to expect? When Okonjo-Iweala, it was a trickle-down approach she was trying to use. Is that going to work for Nigeria? We'll be arguing intellectual. It will be an intellectual discussion right now. Right now, we're discussing bowing. Which, of course, I asked you the other time, Sheriff, why exactly are we here?
That's right. You did.
And just like you said, when talking about recycled politicians, it's just because of the context with which we find ourselves. That's why the word has assumed a terrible meaning. Otherwise, you could also make the same arguments about politicians in other parts of the world, the developed countries of the world. Some of the people, for instance, you have in the Congress have been there, were there 40 years. The people kept on electing them and electing them
because they performed.
They performed. They saw what they did. The reason why it is so bad, I mean, when you talk about recycled politicians, is that they don't do anything. And so people do not understand why people who have not been able to do anything
are coming back.
Are coming back, and they keep on coming back. And so this is where, we have a problem. And then again, just like you said, it's again, are we surprised that it's not about issues, that we're not talking about the issues? At the build up to the election, we know the typical Nigerian election has never been about issues. And so how come the people who did not, when it matters most, when they should make issues, the dominant basis for seeking election, now come back, now enter power when they don't exactly need your approval anymore, and then they make it an issue, a government of issues. So this is the problem. This is, whether we like it or not, is why we have found ourselves where we are today. And just like he said, I also agree with him that, look, it's not about age. Because if it's about age, we have practical experiences in this country. From 1999 to date, a lot of the governors were under 45.
Exactly.
One was around 38 years, the other one was 42 years. And what happened?
And they were able to do it. Even most of these old politicians now, by the time when they entered into politics, they were quite young.
Exactly. And we even have lawmakers who we quote unquote said young, and we have all sorts of issues about them. So it's not about age really. It's about competence.
Gentlemen, does it bother you that there isn't much information about some of these nominees in public domain? We've tried to do a bit of research as regards some names, but we couldn't find any. Maybe perhaps because there was no internet when I don't even know. I don't even know the excuse to give them. Because if you have performed in the past, there should be something in that regard in public domain. Well, people should be able to lay hands on your track records, for instance. I mean, look at Bashir Salih that's being screened now. The only information we were able to get was, when he was
but what
in the military.
What if that is all he has?
Exactly
my
point.
Because at the end of the day,
does it bother you? Should that bother us as a people?
Of course it should. And why should it? Because the world is moving at a very fast pace right now. We're not in 1999. We're not in 1980, where it was, who has more oil, who has more land, who has more water. This is an idea-driven age where countries are beginning to move at a very, very fast pace. We have South Africa. We keep patting ourselves at the back as the largest economy in Africa. South Africa is just a few billions behind us right now.
That's right.
And they are coming very close to overtake us. Countries are looking more to do deals with Egypt, South Africa, even Ivory Coast before they talk about Nigeria. And we're seeing that we're being pushed and relegated to the back. The Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement is one of the things that showed me Nigeria's new role in Africa. They would have gone on without us. They wanted us on the table, but they would have continued with or without us. That shows you that we're not as important as we thought anymore on in the global political stage. And at this point, it should bother us. We should be talking about how do we claim back our relevance? How do we push ourselves in terms of trade? How do we push ourselves in terms of politics? But that is not it.
It's really worrying because if you mentioned, Tunji, you mentioned something yesterday, and it's very vital about having people who have clout internationally, globally, in the global field. If you're really serious about improving on your economy, if you're really serious about improving the lives of your people, you need to have people there that have played on the global field before, that have trained tackles
of all these people that you see
with other global players as well. And that brings me to this theme, because I'm looking at this particular nominee that's being screened on the floor, and a few information I could get was that he is a lawyer. He is a graduate of Ahmadu Bello, and the rest is
Yeah, you know.
I'm looking for accomplishment. I'm looking for.
It does help to have a clout that you have garnered over the years, especially when you're going to operate in the global arena. There's no doubt about
you
that.
must have it.
Because these things matter, whether we like it or not. The reality is that Okonjo-Iweala was able to, even though a lot of people criticized that whopping $12 billion we had to pay in one tranche to exit the debt club. But the reality was that it needed people with that kind of,
We
weight.
couldn't have done that without somebody of that caliber.
Exactly. So it is also very critical. But then again, one other thing that is also critical, I think, is part of, what Tunji has also talked about, Nigeria's present situation in the global arena. Because you see, even if you do not have the individual to carry their personal clout together with that of the country itself carries weight.
Exactly. Should carry weight.
You should carry weight. And so when you are, it's like when a country sends an ambassador
should be respected.
It should be respected because of where he's coming from, because of his background.
Do you see the names that we have on this list as such people?
No, there are people
that will go anywhere in the world and will command respect.
Perspective, there are people with, and of course, the country itself is not what it used to be years back. Nigeria has lost, and I keep on saying that. Look, it is easy to ask to be angry that, for instance, Nigerians are being treated shabbily.
In South Africa, for instance,
we have talked about it several times.
That's right.
South Africa,
that's right.
The Middle East, and all those other countries. But the reality is that a country is as strong externally as it is internally.
Exactly.
When you're talking of international, relations, it is the strength that you have at home that you can project
abroad.
You cannot project what you do not have at home. And so the kind of disrespect that Nigerians are
receiving across the world is part of it.
Yeah.
You see, there's something, Sharif, and I'm sure you've probably seen across the world, you've probably seen YouTube videos of Americans misbehaving outside America who are probably even racist. You see that it is supposed to be a high-profile event, but because of the fear of the government that they belong to, they kind of dampen it down a bit. With the reverse being that things have been happening to Nigerians on a regular basis, nothing is said about it because, as he has said, there's no respect for the Nigerian. Okay, so imagine these guys that have come up, because these are the people that are going to go. When we have a roadshow, a trade roadshow, which we will have
in other countries.
Yes, we will have. And what a trade roadshow is, City of Lagos, so for me to explain is a delegation of Nigerians going to market us to markets across the world. So they'll go to China, they'll go to Japan, they'll go to London, they'll go to America, and they'll sit at their stock exchange and tell them, this is what Nigeria has to offer, this is what we're doing, this is the agric, this is this is that. And those kind of roadshows usually are places where people need to sit down and buy into your country. Now, before they buy into the country, they have to buy into the person speaking, the people speaking.
You have to command some level of respect.
You have to command respect. They'll be like, oh, that guy, we went Harvard together. Oh, that guy that is what that.
Do we have that?
We don't. Have you ever been seeing the names? We don't.
Can I tell you how?
He said something about Okonjo-Iweala brokering the deal. Do you know what it meant for us to broker that deal with the Paris Club?
That kind of deal.
I don't even. I know that is where she built her pedigree from, because she was able to. And now, Paris Club, people just hear it as the Paris Club and think it's some people in Paris. It is. It is the US, France. It's a number of countries that they call the Paris Club. Now, she had to broker this deal with all their finance ministries via the countries. That was high deliberation. That is high-level discussions. That's not what you do by being commissioner of one state in Lagos, in Nigeria. You don't do it's high-level discussions. And for her to have done that, which of course we thought was the slate for us to start from, but we just went back into collecting debt again, and we're back to square one. But we need those kind of people who can open doors. We're talking about power right now. We need somebody who can call Germany and say, you guys, how did you do it? Send your people to me. I want them to replicate that in Nigeria. We don't have such here at this table, and it worries me.
Bashir Sali is taking. Well, he just took his bow and he's exchanging pleasantries now with his comrades.
I wanted to maybe on a lighter note, in a way, in a way, how somebody appropriated the strength of a different country under the guise of coming from that country while he's a Nigerian. We're talking about strength of countries, and I think it was actually happened to a friend of mine. He went to China for something, business, and then I think something went wrong. I don't know what happened exactly. So the authorities there arrested him. Of course, he didn't do anything. So he got angry when he got to their station. They didn't understand English. He didn't understand Chinese. So they were shouting. He was shouting. So I think they were surprised at the guts that he had for him to be shouting there. So they started shouting, American, American, American. So he started shouting more. You understand? And so they now realized or now felt that, look, this is an American. So let him go. And that was how he was let go. So you can imagine, again, that's why we're talking about countries sometimes.
The power.
The power. Of the country behind you sometimes. It can be critical too at crucial moments.
Interesting. In case you're just joining us, you're listening to live coverage of the ministerial nominees by the National Assembly, and a couple of them are being screened so far. And yes, Bashir Sali just left the floor, the Red Chamber, a while ago, and it's quite interesting, the conversation we've been having this morning. The coverage will continue until 4 p.m. today on Nigeria Info. We'll take a break at 1. Then Sandra and I will take charge after 1. I can see another nominee being led into the chamber right now by the sergeant at arms or something. I don't know what they call them, but that is the situation we have right now, and it's quite really interesting. We're still expecting to see people like Abubakar Salami, Ramatu Tijani, Gbemi, Sola Saraki is also on standby. We don't know. I'm not sure if she'll be screened today because we have no particular order of procession for today. Well, it's interesting, gentlemen, but I think that we need to take this discussion, further a bit as regards the economic plan and understanding of this particular administration. President Muhammadu Buhari just forwarded at least 2 months or almost 2 months, after being elected and sworn in. Sworn in, I should say. If it's elected, it's about 5 months or thereabout, if not more. But after being sworn in on May 29, he forwarded the list to, the National Assembly, and promptly, the National Assembly commenced screening. Now, the question is understanding the enormity of, having your cabinet even before you're being elected, getting ready. And the reason why I'm asking this question is the new Prime Minister of the UK, before you even say anything, he has submitted the list of his cabinet, and we all see this. We know that that these people are serious.
Sheriff, there's a reason why now.
What's the reason?
You're watching the screen right now.
Yes, we are.
It's because he knows that he will be grilled by people, right? And they're doing it right now. They are grilling him at the parliament. People are taking on all his ideas and shredding his ideas right in front of him. So he knows not having his cabinet is the list of the issues he must not have. Because if he goes there without having a cabinet, he'll be finished.
So understanding the economic implication of putting your cabinet in place, I don't think we have that understanding yet.
Well, we don't have it collectively. That's because I think Nigeria, and this must be said, we've never been deliberate as a country. We fell into recession without our say so, without knowing what we're doing. We came out of recession without having a say in it. Us coming out of the recession had nothing to do with us. It just was oil prices going back up. It had nothing to do with us. So we've been living our lives without being deliberate about many things. So coming to 2019.
How do we get to be deliberate? Because if you know that the economy is a lifeline of your people, who can say that you shouldn't be deliberate? Why wouldn't you be deliberate?
Well, you see, we.
But instead, we take like 2 months.
I've been thinking about it really. During this discussion, I've been thinking back, and and I believe strongly it is the educational level within or at least the awareness level of Nigerians about what their rights are, what they are entitled to, what they should expect. This kind of a discussion, right, that we're having right now wouldn't be a major discussion, say maybe 8 years ago. Right? People wouldn't have had a heated discussion about this 8 years ago. And unfortunately, even 8 years ago, we even had more reason to have a discussion because we had people who could deliberate about. But, it's a situation whereby you see that we just did not know. And I think it's good that this is happening. So it helps us, as we're doing now, people are listening to us. It's helping to educate people that they should demand more from their lawmakers who have gone to embarrass them here. And we should demand more from our president. We should demand more from his ministers. We should demand more basically from people who represent us at all levels.
Yeah, and just like he was also saying something about being deliberate, and based on the question, why are we not deliberate? You can also see there's something again that has gone on in the United Kingdom that a lot of us, maybe even in the course of this discussion, have not taken cognizance of. And that is, first of all, the absence of an ideological focus and orientation on the part of our political elites. They do not stand for anything, first of all. And that is why it is easy. First of all, they don't even believe in any issue. They don't discuss issues because issues are powered by ideas and philosophical constructs. This is my worldview. This is my world vision. This is how I see life.
You must be known to
my
be
country.
in this.
You understand? This is how I see my country. This is how I think my country should be doing, and this is when I think our country should be able to go, and these are the roles I should play to try to get my country to. All of these things are philosophical, they are ideological. Now we don't have that, and so when you don't have that, you cannot be deliberate. Because it's a thought process that leads to all of one.
It doesn't just happen.
It doesn't just happen. And it is that deliberate process that we are seeing at work in the United Kingdom today. Where people who disagreed with the orientation or with the orientation of the new prime minister, for instance, are resigning their positions.
That's right.
Because those people stand for something.
Because thank you.
They will not be part of what is happening.
Thank you, and they will not be part of what is happening. In Nigeria, you have a situation where a person loses an election, and the next thing is that he feels he can feather his nest in the other political party. He moves. Now the other party does not find any problem with this guy
taking him in
because
because
it's not bringing anything to dilute whatever ideological construct they have there, because they have none in the first place. You understand? So
we're all
they're
the same.
essentially birds of the same feather who must flock together. And so this is part of the problem we're having.
And again,
in the country.
when your name comes up as a ministerial nominee, you jump up and you're
it's
excited.
It's everything because
without caring whether you stand with the person
yes.
in his ideology or not. It doesn't matter.
Thank you. And then the question you also ask yourself: who are these people? What do they do? What is their source of living? You understand? Because it's like if they are not in power, if they are not in government, they are like fish out of water. They are going to die. So a lot of that's why for them, politics, and when they use the word do and die, it is exactly do and die for a lot of them. They cannot survive out of politics. And so for you to remain in politics, you have to play the game of consolidation. That means it's a game. You have to play the game of compromises, the game of not standing for anything. So these are part of the problems.
Where does that leave us really in terms of development? Because if you don't have an ideology, that means you don't have a direction. If you don't have a direction, that means you cannot move.
Let me share something. And this was the just previous administration when the previous ministers were named. Somebody call me up and say, I want you to be on my team. I want you to interface with the media. And I said, I would be glad to, but let the person know that before we continue discussing, this is the way I will respond to issues. We will not deny what we did. We will not deny what we did. And when we need to apologize, we will come out and apologize. So I'm saying this now so that we don't waste our time if this is not what you are looking for. Do you get? Now, it's not because I can't go in there and I can almost defend anything. But you see, I also believe that we are not speaking to idiots. Right? I also believe we are not speaking to idiots. So where we messed up, I can come out and say, okay, we did not see it totally from this perspective. Now we have new information and we'll deal with it as the new information that is in front of us. We do apologize for what we've done, and we'll try and approach it directly from there.
Let me guess, now, you had the wrong choice.
Of course, I wasn't called again. I knew I wasn't going to be called again, and I didn't bother because I knew that wasn't what and unfortunately, the person ran into deep water after. And I was thinking to myself, the way to have handled this thing is what I told this person then. Do you get? But the person and you got more messy and all of that. But you see, it is this ideological framework that he spoke about. If you don't have your own personal, what you stand for, everything you go in there to do, and it's easy to be swayed when you enter the midst of politicians.
That's very easy.
It's easy to
Quick
be swayed.
And swift.
If you do not have what you stand for,
that's right,
easily you will sway to the left and to the right. And when you now have a collection of people that sway to the left and to the right of interests,
Could it be? I'm tempted to go through the live broadcast, but this conversation must not go on unfinished. Achike, could it be because, the issue of lack of ideology, lack of focus and development that we have talked about, could it be because of the reward system of our politics?
No, part of it, no doubt about that. Because again, the culture of impunity, you can do these things and you can get away with them. But it has not always been like this. I remember that. When we were much younger in our heydays in the universities, we were young. We didn't have the tools of information that the younger generation have today.
That's right.
The social media and the internet and the rest, but we are much more informed about what was happening.
Exactly.
And that thing beats me a lot.
How
was it done then?
We have so much information, but we are not informed.
Exactly.
Right now.
Understand? So we were much more informed, much more knowledgeable about the world around us. And we also had this understanding of our roles as civil students. So it was easy then to hear, for instance, that the wife of the military head of state had a wristwatch factory in Switzerland, had a perfume industry in France and the rest, and the students would hit the street because they were able to make a connection between their lives today,
and
what happens in government and their future.
Tomorrow.
You understand? And they responded critically.
That's right.
Because they knew if they did not, they were mortgaging their future immediately.
Yes,
that's right.
And so we also had, and then within the university system, you had this radical lecturers in those days that would imbue students with all kinds of thinking, Marxism here and there, but at least it sought to open up the minds of the students.
Critical thinking.
Critical thinking. That's the word. Thank you very much. And so over time, the military realized that look, we cannot have this kind of you cannot have two captains in a boat. And so they started to weed out lecturers who were teaching what they were not paid to teach. If I remember that expression from Babangida then. And so all of these things culminated.
I think that was the beginning of our problems, because that really watered down the thinking. And I can remember many times where the students stood up to, this cannot happen. This cannot happen.
But today you have a leadership of
students went and said
they are going to
give
Asorok. They are going to government house. It's unheard of. Those days
it is. It's appalling.
It's really sad. While we're having the discussion, Timi Peresiva was giving his remarks, and right now the senators are, I wouldn't say questioning him, but let's just have a listen to what is going on. Timi Peresiva was born in Brass, Bayelsa State, Rivers State. He was in Rivers State. He was one-time governor of Bayelsa State. Let's have a listen to this.
Well, thank you very much, our leaders. Before I put the question, let me also remark that what the governor of Bayelsa State has done And what the caucus of Belsa State in the Senate did show patriotism, desire to work together to make not only Belsa develop and be peaceful, but take Nigeria to the next level. This is a shining example of what our politicians across the country should be doing. We are supposed to serve the same people, regardless of our political platforms. As for the Eloni syndrome, I think the minority leader feels very threatened. I pray that you don't turn into Eloni yourself one day, and we'll surely remind you if you do. But let me also congratulate the nominee himself for also working hard to ensure that there is peace, there is tranquility and stability in Belsa State. So with these remarks, let me put the question now. Those in favor of the motion that the nominee takes a bow and go say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You can take a bow.
Timmy Silva has been asked to take a bow.
As usual.
As usual.
This is a bowing ceremony.
Sometime back he had issues with the EFCC.
EFCC, that's right.
I think it's been maybe resolved on their own terms, but one would expect that maybe one or two senators
would have asked him about the details of that.
Yeah, exactly. And then of course it's within him to respond any way he wanted to, but
at least ask.
So these are the issues we are talking about.
This is quite interesting, really. And he is on his way out of the chambers right now. And just before he leaves, Silva's opponent in the 2007 election, Ebitimi Abari of the Action Congress, legally challenged his victory, although the Bayelsa State Election Petitions Tribunal upheld Silva's election. Agbari took the matter to the appeal court in Port Harcourt, which overturned the tribunal's decision and nullified Silva's election on April 15, 2008. Now, the appeal court's 5 justices were unanimous in their decision and ordered that the Speaker, Warani Pre Seibarugu, be sworn in to replace Silva as acting governor, with a new election to be held within 3 months. A new election was held on May 24 back in 2008, and Silva again running as a PDP candidate. He was overwhelmingly elected with some amount of votes. He was sworn in again on May 27, saying on this occasion that he would form a broadly inclusive unity government. On January 27, 2012, his tenure was terminated by the Supreme Court, with an acting governor appointed to oversee the state until the election of February 2012. A lot of legal tussle up and down characterized Silva's tenure as the governor of the state, and that to some people cast a lot of doubt on his integrity as a person.
Well, I know that we've had elections. If you go by the very last elections, a lot of cases were generated after the very last elections, and I think the funny thing was that most of these cases were as a result of the lack of internal democracy in most of these political parties. So we've had issues, and the reality is that again, you cannot talk about the problem within the judiciary, especially the corruption within the judiciary, without talking about election petition tribunals.
That's
I
right.
think it is as a result of the process from 1999 to date that a lot of these judges got corrupted, in the process. And we have always said that we should try to have an electoral system that ensures that cases of who won elections are not determined by the courts, but at the ballot at the polling booths.
That's right.
I think that is the standard. Of course, Timothy Silva has been a person of controversy for quite some time. Either with regards to elections that he had taken part in, or with regards to alleged corruption matters. Of course, we know that he's not the only governor. Virtually all the governors are having one issue or the other.
Or the other.
We remember that. The Nuhu Ribadu, standing before the National Assembly some years back and saying that about as much as 32 governors who have been investigated for corruption. Unfortunately, we have not seen the fruits of this investigation over time. And so these are issues that the Nigerian state that the Nigerian people and the state have been grappling with. And unfortunately, the fact that corruption still continues to work unashamedly on our streets.
Have we been successful thus far in the fight against corruption in Nigeria? Right from the Obasanjo era to Yaradua era to Jonathan and now President Muhammadu Buhari. Someone said the other day that the corruption fight in the past and present, there hasn't been any much achievement, any much difference at all, regardless. Remember that one of the tripods that President Buhari wrote on into office was that he was going to fight corruption. But the person was talking about there was not much difference between how corruption was fought in the past and now.
Well, you see, I think one way of determining how well you think we have done in government, whether it is sectorally, whether it's corruption or not, you find it on the streets, where the reaction of Nigerians. When they talk about such things, because you see, when a government does well and a government is able to galvanize the vast majority of people towards a particular direction, people have an idea about the nature and character of that government. People have an idea how well that government is doing. And I do not think that Nigerians are so ungrateful, that Nigerians do not want to wish their government the very best. Believe me, it is in the interest of Nigeria that every government that's in power succeeds, because when the government succeeds, the people succeed.
That's right.
But the reality is that if the fight against corruption, for instance, has been successful up to this point, you will not hear the kind of stories that we are still hearing every single
So we
day.
agree that it's not been successful.
It has not been successful because nothing fundamental has happened within the system. And so for you to have, and it has to be a revolutionary action.
How do you mean?
It has to be something that is that a government that believes in that fight must embark upon, and must also be ready to be blooded in the process, and then but he will be able to galvanize the vast majority of the support of Nigerians. And I think Nigerians want the war to be fought because they've realized how it has affected them negatively in terms of their welfare. But they have also seen that it is all a ruse. They have also seen situations where people who are being investigated for corruption all of a sudden jump ship from one political party and they get into the other party, and within a period of weeks, the government is not even subtle enough, to play the politics. The next thing is that charges against such people are dropped. Where you see a situation where the government, and I'm not just talking about this government, where even previous governments, where there is no concerted, deliberate effort to distance themselves from people who have been stained by the stigma of corruption. But yet you see these people rolling with those that matter within government circles. So that is not an indication of a government that is that holds corruption in contempt.
Well, it's a turn of Ramatu Tijani from Kogi State. She was a women leader for the All Progressives Congress and the president conduct of African Political Party, CAPP. And again, Tunji asked this question earlier. There is nothing much to be seen in terms of achievement of the so-called ministerial nominees. All we're just seeing are just basic things. If you're going to be a leader, if you're going to head a ministry, shouldn't we see a track record of achievements? Your CV, shouldn't we be using trucks to carry... Sandra. Okay, Sandra is here.
Yes, Sandra is here. Well, I mean, so you have the likes of Uche Chukwuoga, for instance. Has a nice track record.
That's right.
Sharon Ikazo as well yesterday. Nice track record over there. Yeah, that's about it.
Are you serious?
Wait.
That I can think
but
of.
track record is relative.
Okay.
You get
Fair enough.
So Olga seems to have done very well for himself within the banking space and the oil and gas space. But they are ministers, and they will be relating with Nigeria and outside Nigeria.
That's right.
I'm not sure what his track record outside Nigeria is in terms of the global terms of politics.
But take a look at somebody like Rotimi Amechi, for instance. Yes, he's a politician, yes. But he is somebody who has been in the political space for a long time.
For a very long
Can we
time.
say that Rotimi Amechi, for instance, doesn't have a track record?
I also so Rotimi Amechi is one of the people who I didn't expect was going to make the cut again, and that is basically because on the deal he cut with us with China on the monorail.
The monorail.
Now here's the discussion. City of Lagos, I need you to follow me through with this. First of all, the monorail which we are setting up in Nigeria is not used in China anymore, and the Chinese are coming to set it up for us. 2, the Chinese set up a dual rail in China, which people were saying at the time was going to be useless. So after setting up the dual rail, they set up a high-speed rail side by side. So it means they know, them coming to set it up for us, know that this technology is ancient, right? Right now, we are setting up what is ancient in Nigeria at this particular time. Now, the second part is the rate at which we set it up. Note that this is a resource for infrastructure deal.
Because I was going to ask you that. Shouldn't we consider the funding part?
This is a resource. No,
can we afford a not so ancient rail license?
Wait. So what is the point of doing a resource for infrastructure deal? Now, note this, right? A resource for infrastructure deal has many components. The first component is that you are promising China resources in the future, irrespective of price, right? So if the crude oil price or whatever resource they are banking on goes to $300 per barrel or whatever it is, and your price you've set is at $50 per barrel, that means 15, 20, 30 years into the future, you'll be selling to them at $50 per barrel. Right. Note that they give you a 20-year moratorium. They are not stupid.
I need to interrupt this broadcast and tell you that I'm watching a senator sleep while the screening is going on.
It's a bowing ceremony.
Isn't it boring?
I just needed to mention that.
It's a bowing ceremony. So you get the issues here. That deal, and honestly, that deal was a template deal China gave to Africa, which of course comes back to what we were saying earlier. We seem not to understand that we're Nigeria, right? We shouldn't have taken a template deal from China because it's the same deal China gave Ghana. It's the same deal China gave Cameroon.
And by the way, that deal in China is more profitable to Ghana than to Nigeria, because
do you get what I'm saying?
The amount is the cost is different.
Do you get what I'm saying? At the end of the day, these are the discussions we should be having. What kind of deal did you strike for us? What kind of deals did you give us the first time? You didn't give us a very lucrative deal. Now you've created a train that will carry people from point A to point B. What we want is trains that can carry cargo from Apapa to Ariaria.
That's right.
That is what we need, so that the roads can be decongested. We don't have that, and that is what you've given us. You've given us transportation for people. Are you getting that? These are the things. This is what we should be questioning him on, not whether.
Well, it was asked yesterday when they were arguing about asking Amechi question or not about the Eastern Corridor rail line, and that is one question that he should have been made to answer, because that will give opportunity for cargoes to be shipped from Lagos straight down to any state along that corridor.
But again, what's the point of making him answer questions about trains if he's going to come back and probably not be Minister of Transport again?
He might be Finance Minister. Who knows?
So, he answers all of those, says very nice, interesting things, and tomorrow he comes back and is Minister of Foreign Affairs. What's the point of answering those questions?
Maybe perhaps to shed light on his activities, on his
on the reasons he did the things he did.
Yeah.
Or the choices he made.
On his success or failure.
He is to have a second tenure. So it worries me, especially because we had, over the last 10 years, we had a lot of opportunities to take a massive place in global politics. This Brexit issue is something we should be forefront and center within. We should be talking to both sides, striking out massive deals, taking from both sides of the table, because this is the point where the UK is going to be on its own in a few months.
That's right.
They are going to be singled out from the
and
world.
they will be desperate.
They'll be facing a recession.
This is the point where we should have
recession.
been negotiating, striking deals. We are going to give you.
Are you going to strike deals without ministers? What's your own?
You see what I'm saying?
It took us 2 months.
So
or 5.
So we have the Brexit that we are not focusing on. We have the AFCFTA that we are not focusing on.
There's even the China-US issues going on that we
should be getting from.
Do you get what I'm going? You see why it upsets me that we've brought.
That's the minority leader now, Baribe, playing the role of the party, the ruling member of the ruling party, in the spirit of comradeship and camaraderie.
We've not really seen much from Inaya Baribe. He's been
he's been the star.
He's been the show.
That's what I'm saying. We've not seen much in terms of opposition. He's been more of praise singing.
That's what we're talking about.
Praise singing of most of if not all of the nominees. Most of the nominees. He's been praise singing them. Opposition should come up and tackle.
Did he praise sing? Nominees. I mean, he's the one that wanted to make up Babio sweat, isn't he?
He said he wouldn't because of the house rules.
The agreement. That's something that should annoy Nigerians more than it currently is, to be very honest. Those house rules are ridiculous.
They are ridiculous. Well, we have to wrap it up here. For the first half of the live coverage of the ministerial nominees. It's day 2, and thank you for staying with us. Sandra will take over alongside on the second half of the live coverage. Sandra,
yes,
we wish you best of luck.
Thank you.
We have tried to. Tunji couldn't hold it at some point, but at least we tried to just ride through and glide through because they were just saying, take a bow, go. Take a bow, go. We've not really seen all through the screening.
I hope you guys have more to cover.
Did you see any?
No, we've not had anything to do. I hope you guys have more to cover, more to discuss, because we've just been seeing people taking bows and
well, have they been having more legislators?
Yeah,
I think
so either
it's
legislators or strong APC people.
I see. Was Timmy Pressilver made to take a bow and go as well?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Is he a former legislator?
No. But you see, at the end of the day, it's you want me to say what I want to say? I'm not going to say.
Say what you want to say.
No, but yeah.
I feel like I'm watching somebody else bow and go.
Yeah, he's just bowed.
All right, you both should bow and go as well.
Yes, we're
three of you need to take a bow and go.
So that's the much we've got for you. Tuji Andrews, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks.
Ajike Chude, since morning.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
It's a pleasure. I am Sheriff Quadru. Wemimo says bye as well. We'll be back on the morning crossfire tomorrow at 6 a.m. But then the live coverage continues after this short break.